when you put the seeds on the soil and you keep working and working every day, eventually you are going to come up with results.
Welcome to the Strategy at Scale podcast, brought to you by Scaling Up, Outthinker, and Growth Institute. I'm your host, Kayan Krippendorf. Our mission is to cut through a sea of conflicting business advice and get to what actually works. We talk to entrepreneurs and business builders who've scaled real companies, and we learn the strategies that make the difference. You just now heard from Sabrina Herrera, a creative business builder and strategic thinker who's spent her career turning big ideas into real working businesses. Sabrina was part of the founding leadership behind Genomma Lab, one of Mexico's most successful pharmaceutical and personal care companies, known for its market-defining OTC brands and early success in direct-to-consumer innovation. The company was the first in its industry to go public on the Mexican Stock Exchange. It now operates in more than 20 countries. Sabrina helped shape that growth from the inside, serving on the board and helping set the strategy for scale. Her work has also extended beyond the boardroom. She serves as president of the Genomma Lab Foundation, is a founding member of Duerme Tranquilo AC, and in 2015, she became the first woman to lead the Patrons of Mexico's National Institute of Perinatology, a milestone in her long commitment to social impact and healthcare. But the success of Genomma Lab didn't slow her down. If anything, it sparked even more of her entrepreneurial drive. Over the past 2 decades, she's built a career full of bold moves, launching wellness brands, backing early-stage companies, stepping into boardrooms, and helping young entrepreneurs find their footing. She's known for being hands-on, sharp with numbers, and never afraid to ask hard questions or make hard decisions. In her most recent move, she took over Regina Romero, a 40-year-old Mexican shoe brand known for handcrafted leather. What started as a product refresh turned into a full transformation. New designs, new tech backbone, new stores, and now plans for global expansion. What stands out about Sabrina is that she doesn't just talk vision, she builds the foundations underneath it. She makes mistakes, she learns from them, she brings a rare mix of heart and discipline to everything she touches. I've gotten to know her for 2 decades and have been truly inspired by the calm and wisdom by which she pursues realizing the visions that she creates. And in this episode, we talk about what it really takes to scale a business across borders, the biggest mistake she's made as an investor and what she has learned from those, why vision is never enough without execution, how she's bringing a legacy brand into the future without losing its soul, and why the best founders stay obsessed with their product quality. Ladies and gentlemen, Sabrina Herrera. Sabrina, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. It is really an honor to get to sit down with you and talk business, and we get to do that fairly often. But to do it in this context, I'm so excited to pick your brain. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Kayan. Always a pleasure to talk to you, chat with you, and talk about these things that we are passionate about.
Yes. And share these passion and the things that you've learned along the way with other people who are building things. So maybe they can avoid some of the mistakes that you and I have made and that you and I have avoided. So, you've gotten to build businesses in so many different contexts, both from starting from nothing and also starting from something. And so we're just kind of drawn on all of those. You've been an investor also in businesses. So I was going to, we'll jump around a little bit. If you think about when you have made a decision to try to start a business in an area, and sometimes it's been the right area and sometimes it turned out to be the wrong area, what do you now look for when you to identify that there might be an opportunity to build a business in?
Well, I do believe that there's always opportunity for good businesses. There's always. I would say that the most important and challenging part of a business is, yes, we have to have a vision. You have to have a product. You have to have a market. but the most important thing is the execution over time, okay? Because anything, and I would say that one example is you, okay? I met you, I don't know, maybe more than possibly like 20 years ago, and I've seen how you have built your business over these 20 years, and it's amazing. I mean, at the end, everything that you, when you put the seeds on the soil and you keep working and working every day, eventually you're gonna, you are gonna come up with results, okay? Because that's how it goes. I would say that.
But you don't think the soil, I just want to push you on that a little bit. You don't think like the soil that you choose, some soil is more fertile than other soils?
100%. It depends on the opportunity that it's happening in the market in the moment. And also, it also depends on the product. Sometimes I see, I'm more of a seasoned entrepreneur, or let's say business person. I consider more myself. Yes, I do have entrepreneur spirit, but I think I differentiate two things, because you can start any kind of business, but if you, let's say, with the entrepreneur spirit, but if you don't have and understand how the business works in all the ramifications, all the different nuts and bolts of the business, then also that's going to be a failure. I do believe that the second part, that doing, like doing business right and doing the right business, I would say that doing the business right is, for me, I think is more important. I have seen so many, and I'm going to give you an example of my own life, okay? And this is 10 years ago, I invested in the, exactly 10 years ago. This has so many lessons learned. And I think is when you fail, when you get the most of the lessons. So what happened is 10 years ago, a very good friend of mine, and she used to be my partner when I was living in Costa Rica. We were, younger, and we were doing all these retreats and yoga, whatever. We were very, very much into wellness. I started practicing yoga at the beginning of the 2000s. So I moved to Costa Rica because of that. I wanted, the connection, all these things. So at this time, she comes and she presents me with this person that he has the patent and the technology to dry freeze. Dry freeze is when you extract all the water with not with heat, but with cold, like freezing, okay? And that has an advantage because you keep all the properties, because you are not boiling the ingredients, no, the fruit or whatever. That's used all over. The patent had this, let's say, this innovation, which is fat. And by this, I mean they were making avocado powder, coconut powder. And at the time was very important because 10 years ago is when we started talking about that good fats were good for you, no? So avocado, coconut, all these fats. And this technology only had that. So we had the market. It was the perfect moment. You will go to Whole Foods and everything was packed with superfoods, but not everything. It was like a lot of if there was, there was a big opportunity. People were starting to look at eating healthy. I mean, from 10 years to today is like, there's been a boom on this, no? The product was amazing, okay? And then fast forward, what has happened 10 years after? The company has not been able to take off. Why? Many, many problems. One of them is because they have not stick with the original vision and idea of having one product. One time they started with one product, there was no consistency, and then it's like, oh, let's do this. No, let's do this, let's do this. So they would be jumping all around. No, let's do bulk. Now let's have our own brand. Let's create the brand. So all of that consumed, let's say, the first 5 to 7 years. But then the problem with that was that the systems, the processes, let's say the foundation of the company was not created. So every year, different clients, until, let's say, until reality gets back to you. Now, what are the lessons I got from that experience? One of them is I start investing, and my investment with a friend of mine was about 10%. So one of the things that I learned as an investor in that moment is either I invest in companies that they trade, let's say, Wall Street, and then you're a mini investor. Let's say you have I don't know, Elon Musk running the company, or, these companies that they have been proven that they are audited and, that they are public companies, or you really need to be on the front seat. Okay, it's very difficult to be on the back seat of a company that you cannot control, that is starting, let's say, also, and even though you have a vision and you see a lot of the things that can be done, then there's no much of how can I say, like they won't listen, okay, to say in a certain way. So I learned a lot from that experience, and a lot of the things that I learned, that was one, not to invest unless, if that you are in a public company and that you trust the person that is doing, the CEO and everybody and the board. And the second thing that happened with this company was, and this, I want to say this because I have a lot of friends that their kids, they are graduating from schools with a undergraduate or grad, and they have these ideas, graduate school, about a business, and they put on a business, and then they think, or what they are doing is they are, I'm sorry, Spanish is el levantamiento de capital. Yes, that they are getting money, from investors. And one of the things that I think is that sometimes we don't realize is the amount of legal accountability there is when you get different investors in your startup. So I would say that would be another thing to really take care when you are starting a business, to make sure that you understand where all the money is coming from, that you know, and you are willing, or how you are going to do that. And if you're bringing somebody as your partner, that you make sure that all the corporate paperwork, all stuff that you are doing has to be impeccable, okay, in that sense. So I don't know if that makes sense.
So how did this lead to this great moment? There's going to be huge potential for this freeze-dried coconut and avocado products. You were in the back seat. You owned 10%, but you were in the back seat, so you didn't have much control. And you saw them jumping around, different product, trying a different product, but not sticking with the product. But what I hear you saying is that because you didn't really have any influence, that you couldn't guide them. Is that what we're saying?
Exactly. And it was not only me, that we were like a bunch of investors that we were thinking the same.
So how do you know when a company is jumping around too much?
Well, I would say that the results, the numbers, for me, one thing that is very important, and this is something that I used to tell them, this is back in 2016, 17, 18, is that you have to make promises, okay, which is your forecast. And you have to deliver that promise. I know, sometimes you say, well, but I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen, or these are my best expectations, whatever. But if you are really, really off course, let's say if you are 5%, 10%, below what you were supposed to target, but, it's within, unless, big things happen, let's say, I don't know, like a tariff, that you were not expecting or something like this. Okay. So then there's an explanation. But when you see that this is a pattern that is repeating, it's like you need to dig deeper and you need to find the person accountable. And that person needs to really start revising the whole business plan. And then that's when you're going to find, because it's easier to see it hindsight, okay? But in the moment, to find what's going on, that I'm not getting the results, is kind of difficult. And it all boils down to the amount of accountability a CEO and a leader is willing to take. And because I think that with accountability comes the responsibility to go deeper and understand and say, you know what, this business model looked really good, the situation or, certain things in the market change or the competition, whatever change. And now let's see how we are going to remake. And this is something that happens in every business at some point. You start and maybe you are very successful at the beginning, but then something happens. Always something happens. You are never like top. So you have to keep reinventing yourself. You have to keep looking at how you're going to be expanding yourself. We talked about this, you and me, last year, because I started 7 years ago. I invested now 50%, not 10%, on a company that we design and manufacture shoes for women, leather, high-end, a completely different, beautiful, yes, a completely different, let's say, context, business context. I have to learn about fashion, about luxury, about different things, about manufacturing of leather goods, all these things. Very interesting. Has been 7 years. And when it started, it really took off nicely. You will see double digit in growth, double digit. And then after COVID, 2023, 2024, we start looking at numbers were not as, the growth was not as interesting as the beginning. And we haven't not reached the results we wanted. So what we did is we start doing a 360 analysis of the whole business. And we created a different thing for each of the areas of the company of how to take the company to the next level. And one of the things that...
So give me an example of an area of the company so I know what you mean by area of the company.
Yes, for example, the way that we were doing all the administration, okay? So we will have different softwares, one for accounting, one for the administration, one for the salaries, all this. Now because we were not that big to have a ERP, a bigger ERP. And now we start looking for a solution. And now this year we're implementing a small ERP. I think you call ERP, I'm not sure. SAP?
ERP.
Exactly. So we were looking at so that's one of the things. For example, in the way we manufacture.
Okay, I got it. So like different kind of like functions or activities of the business. And then you said we're not getting the results that we aspire to. Then you dissect and you look at the different areas of the business. And you identified some that you needed to.
Yes, what we did is we put all the most important areas, like I think there were 6 or 7. And we say, okay, imagine, or let's say we are going to grow 10x. Because if you just go to the next step, you just do a little thing. So in order to grow 10x, how this area, and then we create the vision for the area, how that area should be working. What should we we need to be having in this area to say that at 10x, and that's where we were. That's where we.
What does that look like? What does that? I love that exercise. What does that look like? You say, okay, imagine 10x. Imagine 10x in our enterprise software. Imagine 10x in how we manufacture and how we source or how we recruit. Right, all these different areas of the business model. What does that look like? Are you by yourself in a coffee shop and a napkin? Are you on a retreat in Costa Rica? Are you doing it every day as you go through the day with your team?
How we came up with that? Well, I would say it was like a 3-month process, and then it took a lot of fine tuning because at the beginning, possibly you start like too ambitious. That's what happened, and then also you need to. And this is difficult when you are operating a medium business, let's say, not a huge business or a little bit. It's difficult because you need to operate the business, plus you need to reinvent the business at the same time. So that becomes so I would say that, yes, it is I will say a couple, but I would say 5 to 10 sit-downs with, in this case, I would do it with my partner, and we go area by area. But just the first thing we did was to visualize, like to put like a slide in the future, like a slideshow or like a movie, and what is happening.
Like a vision board, or is like a
yes, but more of a just like a one thing is like an intention, okay, in that sense of who are we, where we recognize how we are. I think it is very important to have, I wouldn't say specific goals, but to have a very clear vision of where is the company going at this point, okay? We all want to grow endlessly. We all want to be huge. We all want to, but sometimes it is important to not to, because then that becomes blurry. You know what I'm saying? And then you start doing steps all over. And I think that's what happened with this other company, the dry freeze company I was telling you. The CEO, the president, had these huge ambition goals. He wanted to sell the company 200x, all this. I mean, the company was a good company. It was a good product with a good idea. Not a good company yet. But he forgot to build the company, to build a culture, to build a name, to build a brand, because he was so obsessed in the growth and in selling that, okay? So that's, I mean, it is better, it's easier when you see it on others, no, than on yourself. I'm sure there's a lot of mistakes I have made that I could have done. But that is one of the things that I learned is that also to enjoy the process of the change, because when you already have a vision, you want to be living that vision, but then you don't, how can I say, you don't enjoy the process. I was reading, I think this morning, metaphor about having children and having a goal, a vision, or a business. And it's like a mother, it says, that when they have their baby, they enjoy the baby. They're not, I want him to go and graduate from university, There's sometimes that you want them to go and grow and graduate. But what I'm saying is that, but that it's going to take 20 years because it's just like, it's a newborn. So right now is the time to change the diapers, and I am visualizing, my son graduating. But today I am helping him in how to eat, for example, or she's learning all these things. So I do believe that being part of that's what I'm talking about, the process in each of the areas, because sometimes you get either you have expectations that then they get unfulfilled, or you get to be very desperate, frustrated, disappointed, and then all that permeates.
Because you want it to be going faster.
Yes. I know it's difficult, especially if you are having a financial pressure, okay? But I do believe that if you do the right things, eventually they start accommodating, okay, in that sense. Mm-hmm.
And so I guess there's got to be a point where you're doing the vision in these different areas, and some of them you can get there faster than others. So you want to kind of make sure that you're developing them at the same, so they're developing at the same pace.
Yes.
And so that means that there's some things that you need to slow down on, even though you could go faster because there are other parts that aren't ready yet.
And you could, and that
is that right?
Completely. When I created this vision, like it was the middle last year, maybe at the end of the year last year, like, yeah, I would say. One of the things that I want to do is I want to test the US market online for our shoes. I think it's going to be a good fit. But the thing is, like, the company in Mexico is not ready for me to feel comfortable to be launching the US site. You know what I'm saying? So I need to, there's a lot of things that need to happen here. We are opening more brick and mortar stores. We are, one of the things that we saw with the design is that we needed a more sophisticated design. And so we hired an Italian design studio, very, very important. And also who is sourcing us, like all these things. Just to make one pair of shoes, it has more than 100 manual processes, a good pair of shoes. Yes. And each element, I didn't know this, but each element adds or contributes to the comfort of the shoe. So if you want to have a comfortable, ugly shoe, that's easy. But if you want to have a good-looking, comfortable shoe, it's very difficult. And we were not there yet. Some were comfortable, but they were not that. One of the things that we wanted was, and this is another thing that I learned. I do believe that you have to be obsessed with the quality and the value you're giving in your product. I do believe that. You have to be obsessed that I am not happy with this result. I am not going to I don't want the public. I really start taking it really personal in the good sense. When they will bring, like mediocre things, it's like, no. And even up to yesterday, I was like fighting with the factory, like, oh no, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. Like I want people to see a pair of shoes of mine and a pair of good Italian shoes, and you cannot recognize which one is which.
How do you instill that in other people? How do you get other people to have that same level? It sounds like you're constantly correcting people or pointing out where they're not consistent with your vision of quality. How do you move them to have your vision of quality?
Well, actually, this vision was not mine originally. Was the founder, Regina Romero, that she passed away. Yes. And but one of the things that this company went through after 40 years was high lows. But when you do the brand story, because I'm in marketing, doing all this, well, what was of this company over 40 years to because there were a lot of companies, a lot of brands all over these years, and they have disappeared. And the one factor in good times, bad times, everything, is that this woman, she always stood up for the quality. She says, my name has to go with quality. You are not going to use my name in a bad quality product. And then her children that are, one is the manufacturing and the other one is in charge of the whole direction, CEO of the brand, they know it's their mom's name. So at the beginning, I was like, let's just sell the product. But then I start understanding this whole thing. And also because I do believe the public right now, little by little, like what I saw 10 years or 15 years ago with the superfoods and all this, I do believe is going to happen now. I do believe people are going to be tired of fast fashion, are going to be tired of low quality.
How do you sense that? Is it intuition? Is it numbers? How do you arrive at that belief?
I do think that I do have some things in terms of seeing that, okay, in the future, like what's the new things coming. I do believe I have a little bit of that. I think I did one of these major bricks. Yes, one of those. Okay. So I do have, so after I did that, then I start trusting myself and I start seeing, I cannot, let's say, predict, because this is a prediction in every area and everything. No, especially not in the stock market. I wish, but I don't. But I have done good things, but it's not my forte. But I do believe that in the when you get deep enough in one area, or let's say in one industry, and then you don't get let's say hooked or biased.
You're not attached. Or yeah, biased. Yeah.
When you are not attached, then you can start looking at the trends. And now in fashion, trends are very important. And then you start looking at the trends, and then you start looking and reading and seeing these emergent brands. And there's these first Jacquemus, but then Pollen, and like all these new brands. And then you start seeing, because when I did like a 1-year program on fashion and business luxury, to understand more the industry. They had all these cases from Harvard and all these about all the big brands, Gucci, and when you read the story of those brands all over like 50, 60, 100 years, then you see what were the wins. Like it comes to you, I think there's a book of Malcolm Gladwell, Blink. Is that the one? I think he talks about that. It's like all of a sudden, it's like, you have this information, but it's because you did all the work.
Yes, it's interesting. Now that you're saying this, what I find unique about you and your approach is that there are some people who fall in love with an area or an industry, and that's what they do their whole lives. Like they are shoe people their whole lives, right? They know the whole industry and they've lived, and their kids are going to be shoe people. There are other people who are like, the shoe business has this much margin, it's growing this much, the profit's pooling here, and it's like a puzzle that they make money on, but they're not attached to it, right? But you have fallen in love with and understood many very different industries, and yet not be trapped in it and gone on to other industries. How do you think about the being attached, not attached, loving an industry, or being not caring about the industry?
I would say now no, but let's say 15 or 20 years ago, if I would think about this, possibly I will get really anxious because it is. I remember when I finished high school, and I was about to choose college, the area. I wasn't really sure, and then for many years I have this belief that I was not really, really good at one thing, but I was good at. But then I realized I was very good at, not extremely like an artist or with a gift in one area, but I was very good in different areas. And then I would say that is self-knowledge, that I realized that one of the things that I like to do, and it's going to sound a little bit possibly cheesy, but I like to make things happen. I like to go into a goal, to have a, like, let's say a project, a goal, a vision, and I feel not the satisfaction of having it be complete, but I do enjoy working, okay? So to work and make things happen and, talk to people, but the most important things I like to create, okay? Even though I always thought I was not into creativity, I can see that there's a lot of creativity in business. and in the creation of things.
Of a business, right? It's not paint or not sculpture, but it's a structure. It's a thing that you're creating and designing.
Yes,
A lot of creativity in that.
completely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so
Very
maybe
cool.
one day is like you're doing, we continue with this analogy. One day you're painting, and then next day you are sculpturing, and then maybe next day you are, doing something else. So that's how I see. The only thing that I do have is I have certain industries or areas that I tried, and I know I don't like one of them, or that I'm not good at. One of them is the hospitality business, for example. Then other thing, and then because that requires a lot of everyday consistency and operation. With that assessment, personal assessment, I also realized I like to start things. And once they're start, and then the next thing I like to do is I like to put, let's say, high-performing teams together. Then we create the vision. And one of the things I love is when they do it by themselves, and when they start, and then my teams, maybe at some point, I guess they get a little bit scared because after certain, I have like regular meetings every week. And then I start spacing them out, and then it's just once a month. And then I try to empower them to create the results. I mean, after knowing that they are going to be able or willing to do that. And then normally what happens is that something else pops up in my agenda, and that is capturing my attention, But this was built. So this is built, is running. I'm not going to operate it. Let's move to the next one.
So I know that we're reaching the end of our time with you. So I'm just going to kind of just ask her to maybe one more question. You've got a lot of people who I'm sure approach you and want you to mentor them. They ask for advice. What are the two most important pieces of advice that you find that you repeat to people who want to, like you, build organizations and businesses or create businesses?
Well, I think two important ones, and you have a point there, because especially lately with young people that they're starting their business, especially kind of people around their 30s, and so first of all, I feel honored, that they come to me and they listen to me. That's the first thing. But the two main things that I normally try to instill in them or to share with them is always, always, always protect your name, your honor, okay? Don't make deals that you cannot fulfill. Don't be dishonest. Always live in integrity. Like, always protect that. When you have your name intact, you are happy. You can always reinvent yourself, okay? That's number one. So, and then the other thing is to be consistent. Keep consistent. I mean, it's like anything. Now my kids are grown-ups, and one of the things I keep telling them is, I exercise every day, maybe 6 days a week, sometimes 5, but normally between 6 and 7. But it's not about one day killing myself in exercise. It's like doing it. And after 20, 30 years or 40 years of doing that, the results are part of your life. So I would say that the consistency is, wake up at the same time, have your routine, check your emails or whatever that you do, be consistent, keep your integrity, keep your promises, honor your word, and I would say those are...
Keep building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that. I think as an artist, you see that the artist keeps building on the piece, layering on the piece, building their skills and going from one piece to the other. And then after doing it a lot, it's like a mountain that you've built.
And you can build yourself, who you are. And yes, exactly. and who you are, you know that you are this person, and you're going to start receiving surprises along life. Yesterday I was with somebody that, I know this person very little, and possibly, she's known me for 10 years, but we were talking, and then one of the things that she said is that she was saying that she told somebody, you can count on Sabrina, because she is somebody that is honest, and then I try to be honest. I try to tell people what I'm thinking. Not hurting, obviously, but I don't hide things. I say things as they are, or as I see them, and when I am wrong, and say I'm sorry. That's the honest approach. I don't think we need to talk about that. We all know that what it is. But if you are an honorable, honest person, that your name is clean, and you are consistent with your work, and you are an honest work, I do believe that's the foundation. And if you achieve that foundation, I understand and I know that there's a lot of people that they are very genius, that they find the gold, at the first strike, and they are very, let's say, not normal. There's a way to say that they are extravagant, or, unconventional in the way they do things. I am not that conventional, but I'm not that unconventional. And they get a lot of luck. But I would say that possibly that's 1% or less, But for regular, normal people, is that honor your word, do your thing. If you promise something, deliver that. And if you are not going to deliver, then look at why are you not delivering, okay, on the first place. Why are you not delivering what you promised? But especially for yourself.
Is there a book or a resource that you recommend to people who are looking to build a business? You have a favorite?
I would say a lot of the classics. The E-Myth, I think, is a very important one. Yes, exactly. I say that is one of the that I think that's important. I always try to have one book that it's keep motivating or inspiring me. And sometimes you get, as you were saying at the beginning of the call, sometimes it's like, oh, no more books about, like, I think everybody that graduates from an Ivy League thinks they have this need to write a book, and then there's the same concept, but different ways, and the 7
different names.
Exactly. So, well, I also like your book, the one, the War.
On the stratagem.
And the strategy, yes.
Yeah. The Art of the Advantage.
Yes. And then I would say that. I will also like the Hide and Dagger. I don't have all your books here.
Awesome.
Yes, I do believe
Thank
that
you.
You are one of the great minds in innovation and strategy.
Thank you. But thank you for taking some time. I know you're very busy.
No.
Thank you for
I'm
taking
so
some
sorry
time to share your thoughts with us.
No, thank you.
Awesome.
No, this was an honor.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Strategy at Scale. Thank you to our producer, Oscar Perez, and our teams at Scaling Up, Outthinker, and Growth Institute. If you like what you heard, please follow, download, and subscribe. I'm Kihan Krippendorf. We'll catch you soon with another episode of Strategy at Scale.